The State of Rugby in New Zealand, an investigation into the issues facing the sport, a year out from the Rugby World Cup. Criticising rugby. Do we play the ball, or do we play the man?
No one likes criticism, but you know, if the criticism is justified, you know, these people are intelligent enough to realise that, you know, there's some merit in what's being said.
One thing I do know about the New Zealand public is they're very knowledgeable about the game that they love.
Everyone has a right to have their piece and their opinion and be critical or critique whatever it is. I mean, we own the All Blacks. You know, the stakeholders are the clubs, the unions first, the clubs and the players and the fans. We're the stakeholders.
The game tends to go through a lot of periods when it's not improving its worth because it gets out of step with society. It does things that the fans aren't happy about. And so critiquing the game is all part of the process that we want to see it thrive. We want to see it on the front foot. And it's not going to thrive if it has things that put it out of step with the fan base. And at the end of the day, the fans pay the wages. And any player that doesn't realise that needs to be looking at how the whole thing works. Same with administrators.
So you'd expect to be critiqued when you've got the privilege to work in this role or be the coach of the All Blacks, if you like. It gets more difficult when you're trying to ensure that there are balanced arguments, that all the facts are presented, and you've got to be careful not to get sort of wound up in the emotional stuff where it can get personal and also can be difficult to get all the facts particularly into a media soundbite.
I don't take much notice, to be quite frank. I know that there's intense interest, and I know that some of the media didn't agree that the current coaches should have been reappointed after the last World Cup, and I know that agenda is still sitting in the background. But I try and control my environment so that I don't read it, don't listen to it, and don't watch it. And I think you've got to, in my position, you've got to try and control that environment that you live in, otherwise you couldn't do the job well. And also you've got other responsibilities. You've got wife and family and kids and grandkids and all those sort of things. And you just got to try and make sure your environment is as positive as possible. So if you took all those things on board, it wouldn't be so. You just control it so that you can live the life you want to live.
I think we do take ourselves rather too seriously, and so we get mixed up in that critique and think that it's individuals rather than what they've come up with even as a committee or as a board or whatever it is. And I think the reason that we take shots at the board of the New Zealand Rugby Union is in some areas they're delving into things they know little about. It's just like some coaches take on roles that they know little about. It's really a case of saying that you have to pick a first five to play first five. He has to be an expert in his position if you want to get it done really well. And you can't be all things to all people. And that's why readjusting the deck chairs is not a good way of going about coaching a team.
I think the public understand, and the majority do. The rugby people do. It's just that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So if you don't introduce these young guys, you get criticised for it. If you do, you get criticised for it. It's just the nature of the beast we're dealing with in the media sometimes. Some media understand, others know it's an area where they can have a bit of a niggle, and they do so. So that's just the nature of the media, and you've got to put up with that, I'm afraid.
It can be detrimental to the game because, you know, you do have commentators from the media side of things, you know, those who write and that. Some of them never played rugby and so would never understand. Yes, they can talk about passion and everything and the pride of being an All Black jersey and all this, but they've probably never played rugby. And so they've got to be very careful in how they write their articles because, you know, you're talking about people's livelihoods here. You're talking about their egos. You're talking about their makeup, their character, their personality. And my mum always said to me, Ingo, whenever you criticise people, always remember that he or she is someone else's son or daughter, you know. And so I've got to be mindful as long as it's constructive.
Sometimes, you know, players bring a bit of criticism upon themselves, and and I guess have to take the consequences. So while it's never easy to take criticism, sometimes you've just got to take it on the chin, move on, and try and improve yourself, I suppose.
I got ripped apart a few times by Terry McLean. I'd always go and have a beer or a cup of tea with Terry, and I'd guarantee the next day in the Herald he would absolutely bite your bum off. But that didn't stop me going up to him, say hello to him the following week. Hey, Terry, how you going? And I would never have him on. I'd just give him a beer. He's doing his job. I just played badly. He had every right to call that game and tell it as he saw it. And I wasn't the only one. He had a crack at all. Even got the greats like Graham Murray, maybe, but Brian Williams. If they played badly, well, man, they were fair game. So, hey, what's changed? Come on. Just get a bit tougher on the skin, boys, Be a rhino instead of a mouse.
I mean, I myself have experienced how personally players can take it. I remember turning up at a team, Super 14's franchises training to interview a player. When he saw it was me, he went, "No," because of some flippant comment I had made on television a week earlier. And I totally understand that, because it doesn't matter what your job is. Skin is skin, and how sensitive you are is how sensitive you are. So I just think that commentators, and I know it's their job, and I know it's a tradition that goes back years, and it's part of the newspaper, the thing to be a media and to be a writer. They accept too that their views aren't always popular, but they see it as their brief to cut to the heart of the matter and to be truthful. But I just think just remember that these are the humans we're writing about. I so sound like Pollyanna right now, but don't write anything that you wouldn't say to them if you saw them at the pub.
But we have a tendency in this country that our media is probably not so good at looking after our rugby here, our rugby players and all that. They love to sensationalise, as they do. The media love to sensationalise everything, because that sells at the end of the day. That's ratings for them. But does it do any injustice, or does it do any justice for the game? You've got to be careful.
The New Zealand Herald's Chris Ratchew is also one of New Zealand's most controversial columnists.
There's a market for that. You look at your own website, and you'll find that Chris is one of the most read people. Every time he writes, people go to it, people read it. So that's about generating interest. I suppose it's about generating a profile for him. I don't think everyone would agree with what he writes all the time. I certainly don't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I find it hilarious. Sometimes I think that's a bit nasty and over the top. But that's the market that some people are in. They want to go down that road. I think it possibly detracts from the point sometimes that there are serious issues. That probably the issues need to be discussed rather than the personalities. I think if you asked anyone involved in the game, they all love the game. They're all there because they love it. They want the game to thrive. They want the game to grow, to move into different countries, to be the chosen sport of the world almost. So they're not deliberately trying to see people disappear from the sport. Sometimes people will make mistakes. Sometimes the vision isn't as good as it should be. But these are strategies that we can criticise. I don't think it's fair to criticise people, because all they're trying to do is do what we want them to do.
Do we play the man and not the ball?
Well, we try very hard not to, so probably better if I didn't answer the question and let other people make that decision.
I think we need to be accountable all the time. We need to be, if we're in those positions, you need to be robustly tested all the time. I think some of the ideas weren't robustly tested in the past, and so therefore they got away as, if that's what they want to do, we'll go along with it. We'll rotate our players, or we'll, and we'll take them all out of Super 14 before this World Cup, so then they'll be conditioned properly. That wasn't robustly tested enough, I don't think, amongst the Super 14 franchises and the provinces, and they were allowed to get away with that. And those sort of things, I think, need the most testing of scrutiny.
I think there's a general acceptance that rugby is a religion in this country, and Like if we didn't have that sort of support, whether it be difficult or not, I think it brings the best out of the All Blacks. And having that interest in how the All Blacks perform. Like the All Blacks, you might have seen the results over the last decade. I read it in one of the websites a couple of days ago. Won 82.2% of their test matches over the last 10 years, the last decade. The next highest is about 62%. That is incredible. I know that we haven't won the World Cup, and that's what people will say, but 82.2% or whatever it is over a long period of time was the best of any professional sporting team in the world. That is a fabulous performance. Now, I know I'm the coach and I'm very proud of that, but it's something that we should be exceptionally proud of. And I think because of the intense interest in rugby in this country, that helps produce those sort of results. Okay, some of it's pretty negative at times, and some of it's pretty positive at times. But I think if you didn't have that, we wouldn't be the team that we are.